All right, so today we're going to talk about rope and handles and how to buy them. Now, it may seem like it's a simple thing, buy a rope and handle, but this is a very preference-based purchase. And the problem is if you don't have a lot of preferences in this area, it can be kind of confusing. So we're going to walk you through all the steps and all the pieces of this rope and handle setup so you can be confident making a purchase decision. All right, so we're going to start with handles specifically. So each handle has its own different characteristics that you may or may not like. Different grip diameter, different end cap, whether it's flexible or rigid, the textures, all of those things are going to develop those preferences over time. A couple things to note, however, is if you're in the boat with a lot of beginners and you share your handle with a lot of beginners and people who aren't very comfortable in the boat, you may see people throwing the handle around, and something with a hard end cap could potentially chip your gel coat if they're not taking care of it properly. So I'd recommend, if you are with a lot of beginners, that you get an end cap that is a lot more flexible. As well as if you're going to be sharing with a lot of kids, try to get something that's a little bit smaller diameter. It's a little bit easier for them to grab onto. So something like this would be a great option for a lot of beginners and young kids, as well as someone who is at a pro rider level who happens to have this preference. But again, you're going to develop those preferences over time as you use them. All right, so now let's talk about ropes. The most important thing when buying a rope is to know how long it is and how many different sections there are in it. When you don't know what line length you prefer to ride, and or you're going to be using it to accommodate a bunch of different riders, or you're going to be experimenting with a bunch of different stuff so that you can learn yourself, try to get the longest line you can with the most amount of sections. That gives you the most options. As you start to use the rope and experiment with different line lengths, you're going to start to learn which ones you're going to favor the most, and that will educate your decision down the road should you purchase again. Now, a couple things that are really obvious about the ropes themselves. One of them is that it's coated, the other one is uncoated. And the difference is there, having a coated rope is kind of a luxury item that gives it a little bit more rigidity, helps it coil and stack on itself a little nicer. However, if you don't plan on using only the extensions that it gives you, and you want to make some custom loops in your line, which I'll show you here shortly, the ideal option is going to be the uncoated line, because if you try to tie a custom loop in your line in a coated line, the coating will break and bunch up and it will become a nightmare. So if any one of you out there has tried that with your coated line, you'll know what I'm talking about. So if you know you're going to be making adjustments in your line length, I know I will. So as a coach, I do it all the time. I go everywhere from 40 feet all the way up to 85 feet, depending on how long the rope is. And I may make incremental adjustments from 2 feet, 3 feet to 10 feet. So who knows where I'm going to be tying a loop in the line, but that's something that I'm going to be doing as a coach. So I know that my rope needs to be uncoated. If you are not going to do that and you only need some of the line lengths that are built into this, then a coated line is a fine decision. All right, so there are two different ways to create a custom loop in your line. Both of these ways, it's actually an identical loop, it's just a different method. So the first method, and the one that I prefer, is where you take the line and where you want it to be attached to your toe point, and you take both sides, you loop it around your thumb. You'll drape it to where one side rests over your palm, the other side rests over your wrist. You'll grab both lines, you'll loop it around the back of your hand so everything stays in the palm except for one loop around your wrist. You'll close your hand, and then you've got two lines here on the back of your hand and one over your wrist. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull both of those to your knuckles. Once both of those are over your knuckles, you have a nice loop that's going to self-tighten. So if I put this on my tower and I cinch down, it is going to not create any knots, but it's going to self-tighten. So I can pull really hard on one of these lines and it's not going to unravel itself. It's not going to make any kinks in your line, and it's really easy to get out because all you have to do is take this loop and just pull it away from the line and it will come loose and pop right off, and then pull it straight, no damage to your line. So that I'll show you again really slowly and then really quickly. So right here, separate the lines, go around the back of your hand, grab everything in your hand, and then you're going to pull from the back and from your wrist over your knuckles, and that's going to go over the tower. You're going to cinch it down. To get it off, you're just going to pull this, give some slack, loosen it, and then you're good to go again. All right, so really quickly and without even looking, I just go around the back of my hand and pull everything together and then loop that over the tower. It's really quick and really easy once you've had some practice. So now the second way, which is actually the exact same loop, is this. You go around the tower and then under the rope with that loop, and then you just put that loop back over the tower. That is an identical connection that you've just created, and the same way you pull it off by just backing that right off. So if you want to do it, if that's an easier way for you to remember, to go around the tower connection, under the rope, and then back over, it will create the same loop. It's going to look like this. It's nice and easy. I just don't like fidgeting with it. I think it's easier to just not look and do it that way. So you can create whichever way you like doing it the most, but that's a way you can create a custom loop in your line if you're working on something very specific and you want to work your way from a short rope wake to wake jump and ease your way into a longer line. The possibilities are endless. All right, hopefully after all of that, you have an idea of what your preferences may be. If you're still saying to yourself, I still have no idea what I'm going to be purchasing, I don't really know what my preferences are, then a great place to start is on a combo package. So something like this, for example, is 80 feet of line, has a bunch of different sections all the way down to 55 feet, and you have a non-coated line that you can tie that custom loop in, and you've got a very popular handle with flexible end caps, and something that you know you're not going to go wrong with to start out as you start to gain what those preferences are as you get more experience. So hopefully that helps. If you don't know what to do, a combo is a great price point option for you that's not going to set you back. It's not like it's only for beginners. It's just your middle of the road that generally most people like.